Here from Precision Framework. I just wanted to welcome you officially to our precision manufacturing product. We're thrilled to have you on board. It's a fantastic product. We really hope it makes a difference in your business in terms of tracking your manufacturing cycles and your manufacturing process. Look, we have a great system. As you can see, it runs completely from a browser, which means you can access it anywhere in the world, which is obviously very exciting for those of you who are still using a whiteboard. Your whiteboard now travels with you. So look, these videos are aimed to sort of help you get our system implemented as quickly as possible, and also just to sort of show you around a little bit as to how our system works and just the thinking that's gone into it around jobs and contacts and things like that. So look, there's going to be a few videos in this series. This is obviously the first one, but look, let's get straight into it. So the first thing I want to show you obviously is where everything kind of happens at the moment. You're probably thinking, yeah, okay, this is pretty basic software. Doesn't have anything there. Let's go ahead and start populating it for you. So the first thing you need to know obviously is that in this system here, everything comes out of this menu up here. So you can see when we go up here and click on that, we have a whole stack of menu items. Okay, now that is essentially where everything happens, but there's a little bit of a twist. So what we can do is we can actually pin things across the top. So what I'm doing here, and unfortunately you can't see what I'm holding, that I'm holding the shift key down on my keyboard, but I am. So if you hold down shift and click on these, you can then pin the tabs that you actually want to use to the top here, which makes navigation quick and easy. So again, you might have someone who just works in the warehouse and cares about, updating stock on hand and things like that. So they just have the warehouse tab and, maybe the sales tab or the dispatch tab for a warehouse. Okay, but then you might have someone who just does sales. So again, they can see what's on hand and all that kind of stuff. So okay, so all this here is what we call a workspace. Okay, so you can see we set all this stuff up so that you can then, each of your users can have their own individual setup. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is what our contacts database. Okay, so we have it set up in a way that you can have companies and then you have contacts. So let me explain a little bit more. So let's click on administration here and select companies. Now you can see it's already there. So organizations or companies are set up so that you can have an organization and then lots of contacts under it. So let's pick this supplier here. So Bob's Aluminium. Okay, so we can see the organization name is Bob's Aluminium. The organization type is set to a supplier, and there's a rubbish phone number there. But then you have the contact down here, which is Mr. Bob Alley. Okay, and there's his mobile number there, which is in Australia going to call emergency several times over. Okay, so the reason why I say that is you can have multiple contacts as part of a company. So let's say you deal with Bob's Aluminium with Bob, but you also deal with Steve, who might be in charge of, ordering or shipping or something like that. So you can then go new contact. I'm going to add Mr. and again mobile number Steve, and his last name is Dispatcher. Okay, and he's in charge of goods out. Okay, so once you hit save here, you can see now that we've got, as part of this whole organization, we've got Mr. Steve Dispatcher and Mr. Bob Alley, and then you've got the details there that you can see easily enough. Okay, and again, if you need to edit them, just jump in and change them. So again, I'm just going to do this, hit save. Oh, away it goes. You can see that that's updated there. Okay, then we're going to, let's say we want a supplier here. Again, we've just picked a customer called Test Company. And the organization type here is obviously a customer, so that means that you basically sell your products to them. And again, I've just filled out some basic information here, and then I've added the contact. And the name, of course, Mr. Big Boss. Okay, so look, that's really important. The next thing I want to show you is how to add an organization. So everything's pretty simple in our platform. If you want to add something, just look for the plus icon. Again, you just hit plus there, and it brings up this window here. Okay. So again, we can add a new customer. So let's call it test customer 1, phone number. Put that in, okay, and then we can just hit save. And you can see that it's, after it says up here, all details updated, it's gone and added it in there for you as well. Alright, the next thing I want to show you is workflow. So let's go ahead and click on that. So you can see at the moment it says nothing selected. Okay, so that means that this form is inactive. We're just working on a fix at the moment and it'll automatically select some stuff for you, but it'll just go all zones and kitting. Okay, so you can now edit these bits and pieces in here, but this is just some dummy data there. Okay, by default you get the kitting zone and you get the closure zone. Kitting is basically when you're going to start your job. So let's say you're building a chair, an aluminium chair, which I'm looking at in our boardroom at the moment. It's got a leather, it's a leather upholstered, but the frame and everything is aluminium or stainless steel. So again, you can then go and say, okay, well look, to build my chair, I'm going to need, a certain amount of stainless steel. I'm going to need a few sort of bolts and nuts to bolt it together. I might need some wheels and I might need a star frame at the bottom, which I may or may not manufacture. So what this is saying here is saying, okay, well the allowance to go through and count it all. For every part, you need a minute. An actual runtime is probably about the same where you're counting things. There's no minimum time, and the hourly rate, which is roughly what you pay someone, is $38 an hour to go and do that. So that's really important later for when you're doing your job costings. So again, we're saying, look, to set up for doing kitting, which is essentially just making sure that you have all the stock that you need to be able to run your job. Again, the setup time is a minute. The run time is roughly a minute per part. So it shouldn't take any longer than a minute to go and find what you need. But again, you know your environment best, so you're better to make that call. And you can just come in and edit that in here. So whatever the average time is. Okay. Up the top here, we've got obviously the name. You can put a description in. Subcontractor, again, it needs to be set to not applicable if it's internal. Okay. And everything updates as you're adding them. So if you want to add a new zone, which I'm going to show you now. So let's say we want to add a manufacturer zone, and let's call it, give it the code man, and then, excuse me, manufacturing. Okay, so we'll then call it, so you can see as details update, it says up the top here, all details are updated. Okay, so in here we'll call it welding and fabricating. Okay, and again, so for this, let's say, so coming back to our chair, we might have to weld the bottom up, so the star legs, which the wheels go into. So for each part that we put on, takes us roughly about 2 minutes to get it lined up and say clamped in place, and then it takes us a total of about 6 minutes per part to then go through and do the welding, so tacking and welding. The minimum time for this zone doesn't matter how big the quantity or the batch quantity is that you're building. So let's say you're building one chair or 1,000 chairs. To set up the zone, the minimum time is, let's say, 10 minutes. And then the actual runtime is about an hour. By the time you get all your welder and gas and everything set up the way you want it, that's how it is. Hourly rate, you need to consider how much does it cost you for wages and also your running costs. So how much does it cost you per hour to keep that zone running? So again, in a manufacturing zone here, let's say we're keeping the welder running. We would then consider how much it's costing us for someone to man the welder, plus also the running costs of that welder. So per hour, it costs us, let's say $60 an hour by the time you say, okay, well, wages are 35, and then you've got the welding costs, and then you've got the material costs of keeping that welder going as well, and of course electricity. And then the number of people is very simple. How many people does it you require to run that zone? So again, we'll hit grab another zone here. You can see as we've hit plus, it's added that in. This one we're going to call assembly. Okay, so assembling. Okay, so again, the allowance per part here. So this, okay, so now we've gone and welded up the frame. We're just going to bolt the arms on it and sort of attach the leather lining to it. Again, you might sort of need 5 to 10 minutes to set up per part there. An actual run might be about 20 minutes to get it running. The minimum run time, again, let's say it's an hour. And the hourly rate, look, this time we don't have any machinery involved in to keep running. It's just purely a labour charge. I'm going to put $40 an hour in. Should get us covered. And again, it's only really one person operating in that zone. So it could be 2 people putting the chair together, in which case you would just say 2. Okay. So what we've done now, today we've covered on creating contacts and creating work zones. So that's going to be really important in the next video when we talk about creating products. A bit of a sneak peek there. Again, we can create the product here, give it some details and things like that, and then we're going to talk about those work zones. So that's it for now. I wanted to give you that. Hop in, have a play with yours. Any dramas, make sure you let us know. Our email address, of course, is support@precisionframework.com. And one of our technicians is more than happy to assist if you have any dramas or just need help setting it up. We're here to help. So that's it for now. Next video should be out to you very shortly. Thanks.